Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And this is the last part, the last episode, if you will, of my video series that I've done on building villages. The process that I take to build villages, to put them into my campaigns. I call them campaigns because to me that's the old school way of saying a very long RPG session rather than a one-shot or anyways, you get that. So if you're watching this channel, then I imagine you understand it. Or you're just now getting into tabletop RPG gaming. And with that being said, welcome on in if you ran across my channel. And let me get my disclaimer out of the way. If you liked the video, let me know. Click the like button. It tells me you like the content, and I know in which direction to go in. The other thing, too, is I'm trying to reach out to like-minded people. People who enjoy tabletop RPGs, and maybe due to time restraints, they cannot get together with a large game group. Maybe the area they're in, there's not many game groups around them, but they want to game. Well, that's where I come in. I'm all about solitaire RPG gaming, and as a matter of fact, just to hammer this home, my channel is about showing you tips, tricks that I use to enjoy my solitaire tabletop experience and to help you do the same. Some people think that this whole entire solo tabletop RPG thing is a brand new concept. Let me tell you something. It's a lot older than you think it is. As a matter of fact, let's go way, way, way back. Let's go back to the beginning, to the basics, to basic D&D. Yes, basic D&D. And I ordered myself a reprint because this is something I've always wanted. I've always wanted to play through it, but never been able to get my hands on it until now. And let's take a quick look at this and see what it is. As you can see, this is the original basic Dungeons and Dragons, but take a closer look. A solo adventure. A solo adventure for character levels 1 through 10. So, with that being said, I just wanted to get that out there. And the other disclaimer I want to get out before we get into the video, if you like the content, let me know. Click the like button, and I'll start making more like it. If you have a suggestion for a video, well, hey, drop me a comment. Let me know in the comments below, and I review the comments. I'll look at it. I will take it into consideration, and hey, if you'll figure it out, because if I'm like, hey, that's a good idea, then we're going to move into that direction. Or you can always visit my Facebook group over on obviously Facebook, the Artichoke Dip solo page. And currently I'm running right now a basically questionnaire. I want to hear from other people, like-minded people like me. Maybe some areas you want some more clarification in. You'd like to see a video? Well, drop me a line there. You're more than welcome, or leave me a comment here. Last but not least, gotta get out of the way. If you just stumbled upon my channel and you just found it, don't forget to click the subscribe button followed by the bell icon. When I do upload new video, you will get a notification. Or you don't have to. You can just watch it without subscribing. All right, so let's get into the final leg of these episodes, series, whatever, however you like to refer to them, and how I do this. So just a quick recap and why I did this before I close out this video. One of the more challenging things about tabletop RPGs are settlements. Why? There's a lot to them. There's a lot going on. As a matter of fact, if you look back through some of the older versions of the Dungeon Master's guides, one of them being the 3rd edition Dungeon Master's Guide. I loved it, how it laid everything out, populations, governance, crime and punishment, and I mean, just a whole plethora of ideas and tables and resources to pull from to help make it easier for the DM to be able to create these worlds. When you're a solitaire gamer, you don't have how do I put this, a DM to rely on to make all this stuff. Unless you're playing a pre-published adventure, then it's all laid out for you. But if you're vastly like a lot of other solitaire players out there, then at that point, well, you may find home brews. I hate that word, home brew. I call them campaigns because, well, that's what it is. It's a campaign. It's your own solitaire campaign. And now you're left with the task of being able to develop these. And more so than being an abstract backdrop of your storyline or your game, we'll say, now it'll have a more versatile and a more utilitarian resource for your characters in your game to pull on. It's going to be more than just this vague village that occupies this area on the map, and the only real known part of it is this inn and or tavern or this other particular store. Now it's going to be much more, and it's going to offer you more options for your solitaire tabletop RPG experience. And it can also give you a whole different perspective on solo tabletop RPG and how you can take an area like a settlement and actually possibly, up to you how you want to take it, because after all, this is your game. This is you. This is your experience, not mine, not his, not hers, yours. You could possibly take that settlement you made and make a whole entire different campaign built around it. Just food for thought there. So let's jump into, and I strongly urge, I should say this, and I know you guys are waiting for me to get to this, but this is the last video, and I want to really wrap up all the loose ends and get everything done so there's no confusion. But if you are just watching this video, this is the first one you start, I strongly urge you to go back to the first one. This has nothing to do with, I just want you to watch the video. What it has to do with is I have a lot of information that I have broken up over these 3 videos. And in order to understand how I got here, you're going to want to go back and figure out where it started, how I progressed through it, and how I got to here. Just saying. So, yeah, go ahead, and if you're just starting this video, go back to the first, then the second, and this one will make much more sense. Okay, so in the last video, where I left off is I came up with the ideas, the brainstorming from the randomized tables, how I interpreted them and wrote those down, and I said I had to condense that. I had to do more with that, which I did. So let's get into the description and how I condensed it and made it into a more story-rich environment for my characters, actually making this place a more memorable and a living place onto its own on the map, rather than just being how when I started out, just this little area on my grid paper right down here. So let's get into that. The village of Vatan, so located off the shores of the Endless Sea, sets this interesting village. The village is under the control of an elusive sorcerer only known to a few as Cluvrist the Wise. Cluvrist has overseen the village construction and its slow but ever-growing population. Cluvrist completely interested by the Skelth family massacre, a sad story of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The entire Skelth family was slain by a group of cutthroat travelers. Since then, their ghostly apparitions appear around the full and new moon cycles. Cultivist had a tower constructed on the outskirts of the village where the Cultiver's cottage still stands closely hidden by undergrowth. Clodervist closely observes the ghostly family for reasons only known to him. The village of Vatan is a vibrant, busy place known for ghostly apparitions and great ales and meads at great prices to the visitors of Vatan, but below the surface, many have no idea a colony of Trollkin live. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Let me... So, for reasons only known to him, the village of Vatan is a vibrant, busy place known for ghostly apparitions and great ales and meads at great prices. To the visitors of Vatan, below the surface, many have no idea a colony of Trollkin live in the wilds just outside the village. The Trollkin wish to have no human interaction, and after several run-ins with cultivists over food, Cultivist and the Trollkin came to an agreement. A trade for food. In exchange, they mine and deliver stone for new construction. Clovis runs a good operation from his vantage point in the tower. With a steady flow of adventurers, cutthroats, and hunters alike, Clovis has many resources to pull on to locate items for his arcane studies. But with all the resources Vatan has to offer, this village is a beacon in the night. So this is how my brief description of the village and what it has to offer. And there's a lot of things I can actually do with this. Well, like I said, we already know there's quite a few taverns. That was quite clear in video 2 when I went through the random tables and started to make this. But there's going to be more shops at my disposal. And for the fact that it's an ever-growing village means I'm not going to run out of resources to go back to if my characters need this. And I do all my settlements this way for a reason. So you don't really, how do I put this, screw yourself if you don't have to. That's the whole thing. And when you build a settlement, put in what you need at that time when you go in, leaving the rest empty. As you discover the village and run upon more, gives you the opportunity to be able to put into place what you're going to need at that time, and it's a resource you can always go back to. When you're done and you're satisfied with the population that you have, now you have a complete operational village in your records. And the nice thing is, if you decide you want to play another RPG game that has similar, we'll say, mechanics and it's similar story driven, a good example, let's say you've been playing whatever edition of Pathfinder or D&D, now you've ran on to another game system you want to try, maybe it's an OSR or something like that, and well, you don't have a village made, but you can import this village from this game to there. And with a few minor tweaks, you already know everything is already done. The work is already laid out for you, and you already have the merchants, NPCs, and everything you need. Just an example of one of the ways you can recycle those villages if you have to, cities, towns, whatever you decide to design. However you decide to do them. So now that I have the description of the village here, I now have a conception in my imagination of what it is. Now, here comes the part that you may and or may not want to do. It's the next step for me along the way that I like to do, and it's personally for me, for my records. Now, I'm old school. But for many of you out there, you may utilize an electronic platform to do this, whether you're keeping it on your computer, you print it out and put it with your notes, however you do it. Really, there's no wrong way to do it. But for me, I like pencil and paper. I'm going to show you how I like to basically give myself a visual representation for the village and then put it in my loose leaf binder. And then that way, for me, it's more of it's a moment in time, if you will. At that time during the creative process, how I was feeling and how I was viewing this, I can always go back and look at the pictograph, if you will, that's the word I'm going to use for it, and be able to look at it and not only read the description, but also have a visual representation of that. Now, let me get over to the table and show you what I'm talking about in the way that I do it. And you don't have to be an artist for this. This is a very simple technique. And if you choose to do it like I do, old school, paper and pencil, you'll find it to be a valuable use of your time. But if you like to use an electronic way, or you have other resources that you can do mapping and store them, hey, there's nothing wrong with that at all. This is the solo experience. This is about you, not me. I'm just explaining to you how I do it and the way I like to do it. So with that being said, let's get over to the table and I'm going to show you some ways that I like to do the mapping and how it's actually very simple. Okay, so for me, like I said, I like this pencil, paper. I'm old school. I'm an old school gamer and I like old school ways. Like I said, I know there's programs out here you can do this with, but you know what? Hey, what can I say? I'm old school and that's what I want. So first thing I do with my maps, obviously the boring part, let's get it out of the way. I'm just gonna call this the village of Bataan. And then of course, I'm gonna need a marker point so we know which way is pointing north. All right, very simple, straight to the point. I keep this stuff as simple as possible. I try not to go, you know, too really in depth out of the way with it. So first thing is I'm going to make the tower. This is going to be the sorcerer's tower that was described in there. Put some shadowing. Okay, very simple. Over here, I'm going to make the ruins, and this is going to be what's left of the Skelf families with the undergrowth. And I can add some rock in there to break that up a little bit. And I can always put me some numbering in there, so when I look back at this, I will know what is what. And then of course in the description I had forest as well, and I'll show you why I'm doing this and the purpose behind it here. Trust me, this is not to demonstrate my artistic skill, because I have no artistic skill. All right, so I'm gonna draw my heavy forested area. Okay. Now, off over here in this area, I think I'm going to add in some rocky hill areas, like so. I know they may look like mountains, but this is just going to give me a visual representation of the Trollkin, where they're coming from, in the area in which they live. And of course, I think I'm going to add some more forest over there too as well. I can also add in some circular trees just to break things up a little bit. And I can number that in, number 3. Okay, so the whole purpose behind this is not only to give me a visual representation of the idea of the village and to be able to put back into the loose leaf to pull out at a later time, but like I said, if I ever wanted to basically take this and basically import this into another RPG game I'm playing, I can. I already have everything here and visually laid out. Now, down here, I'm going to put the gates to the village. And I can put a walkway like such leading out. First thing I'm going to add into this area, obviously, is going to be an inn, right? That's the one thing that kept coming up in my randomized tables, was there's a lot of inns, and there are a whole lot of drinking going on in this area, right? And then I can add myself a nice little chimney as well, like so. And I will have my first stop along the way for my characters as they enter in. Now, as you can see, I have this entire area right here to really just keep adding, expanding as I need it. I can just keep adding in more and more structures, if you will, at this point, like so. To just keep detailing and putting more in. And I can always, if I have a particular spot, can always draw an arrow and put in a number if I want to, especially if I want to highlight that area as a particular area of importance. And like I said, this is wide open. I have all this area to add all the resources I want that I need into this. And if I want to utilize this onto a story onto itself for my characters, I have plenty of room to do so. This is the way that I do it. It really is, guys. This is the way I do it. I don't use computer programs. I don't use any of that. Now, when it comes to, hey, it's time to enter into whatever building it is, and now there is an encounter, I think most of you know how do I resolve that. Not on this piece of paper, but I am going to pull that out and put a representation down if it's inside, and at that point putting my miniatures out to be able to measure distances correctly and what encounter they may be encountering. For many of those of you that have followed my channel for a while, you know that I love miniatures in 28mm terrain, and it's a huge part of my gaming, especially my solitaire gaming. But I can also, if I want to, duplicate that and actually set up different areas of my village, once again using my 28mm minis, to be able to replicate what I have here on my map. So this is the way that I build my villages. This is the way that I do my settlements. And like I said, this is the reason why when I lay out my maps, I leave this wide open, because I can keep coming back and always adding more. And then once I have populated the whole entire area and it's done, guess what? I have a complete operating village with a lot of NPCs and other things that I can utilize any way that I want to. All right. So as you can see, I use a very simple process to do this. I don't get too elaborate. Even when I'm just drawing out the simple maps like this, or I am actually keeping track of my journeys through here, I don't put a whole lot of emphasis or time on that. Why? Because it's just record keeping for the story notes that I need. Now I have a visual reference to go back to and look at, and this does two things for me. One, if I decide to put the game down for a while and I want to move on to another game, I want to play a different game, and now it could be a couple of months that went by since I played it, when I do go back to it, I can read my last entry in there. I can go back through these maps and look at it and know exactly where I'm at and where I have to pick up. Two, the visual representation actually helps with the memory. You're going to look at it and it's going to come back to you, and you're going to be like, okay, I remember this. I remember what was here and what happened, and I can go back to it from there. So to put it in a nutshell, I keep it very simple. I keep it very simple for that reason. I want to put more of my effort and my time into playing the game, into actually enjoying the gaming session, and not a lot of emphasis on the actual, I'm going to put, record keeping, if you will. Now, solo RPG is different for different people. Everybody enjoys a different aspect of it, and some things they enjoy more than others, like chronicalizing, perhaps getting further into detail with the art end of it, what have you, which is the beautiful thing about solo RPG gaming, for the fact that, well, you can do that and you're not held by restraints of others or slowing them down, or perhaps maybe not going in the direction that the game master wants to take the game, that may at that point have conflictions with the story idea that he had, and then the way that he foresaw he wanted it to go may be different from yours. Anyways, I'm getting a little off the beaten path with this whole entire subject matter, because we're talking about building villages. So yeah, that's the way I do it. This is the way I do it. I keep it very simple, very simple. As a matter of fact, you could see how I sketched it out, how fast it was. I just keep basic shapes, basic shading. I don't really go too far off the beaten path with it. And I've already explained why I do that, because I want to spend more time gaming and less time actually journaling. So, which brings me to another point and I've seen a lot of people struggle with. And if you'd like to hear a video, hear me explain how I combat this and what I do on, and it's funny because I was just reading some comments on this today on my channel, and that was called gaming ADD, or gaming attention deficit disorder, meaning you get buried underneath too many games. You make a character, you come up with an idea, and next thing you know, you don't do anything with it. You find another game system and you start reading that one instead, and you start forgetting. If you'd like to see a video on that and how I combat that, I can make that video and show you how I do that. Just let me know in the comments below. The other thing is journaling. How much is too much journaling? How much is too much note taking? And where does the line basically blur between actually gaming and actually basically just writing out a journal or a story? I can make that video too and get into that and explain to you how I do that and how I enjoy to do that. But one thing I can tell you for sure, I can move on with my Mork Borg game now. Thank God, the village is done. I decided to make this video series just to go through the process. I figured it would be an interesting video to put out there. How I do it, I needed a village. I had to go back to this village, but in the beginning of the game, the village wasn't really the entire idea behind the story. It just so happened the way that the story unfolded, I was like, damn, now I need to go back to a village and I need to create that village. So that was the whole mindset behind these episodes and the way that I did them. And I think moving forward, I think it's going to be a better way for video making. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but I figured this is all about solitaire RPG gaming. And the best way I can think of to explain the ways that I do it and to help you guys is to take you along for the journey. Take you along through the processes that I use and how I do them to help you guys better understand and to make your gaming sessions better and for you to get more out of gaming by doing it that way. So, with all that being said, this is where I get to the point of saying, well, these are my thoughts and not yours. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. But I'm looking forward to hearing you guys' comments. I would really appreciate your input. I see a lot of views on my videos, and I just noticed that sometimes there's just very few comments, and I always sit back and wonder, like, if you guys want to see something on a specific topic, if you guys want to see something on how I do it, how I put it together, how I prep for a gaming session, and some of the things that I utilize to do that, then I would love to hear from you. Leave me a comment. Like I said, I'll look at it, I'll review it, and if I can be like, hey, I can make a really good video out of this, then we're going to move forward in that direction. Of course, there is always going to be the smart asses in the world, right? I mean, it just seems like everybody thinks they're a comedian. They just have to leave some comments that are just completely derogatory or just disgusting in every way. So that's why I said, go ahead and leave me a comment. I'll screen through them and we'll take it from there. But with that being said, this is Artichoke Dip signing off, my friends.